Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon and watched the stars pass by. It was the year 2247, and humanity had finally done it. They had built a ship that could travel faster than light. Jake had been chosen to command this vessel on its first real mission into deep space. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft hum of the engines. Lisa Grant sat at the navigation console, her fingers moving across the controls. She had been with Jake since the beginning of the program. Paul Henderson was down in engineering, making sure everything ran smoothly. Karen White worked at the science station, scanning every new system they passed through. They had been in space for 3 months now. They had mapped 5 new star systems and found 2 planets that might support human life someday. It was exciting work, the kind that Jake had dreamed about as a boy. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," Karen said, looking up from her console. "There are energy signatures in the next system. They don't match anything natural." Jake felt his heart beat faster. "Could it be another ship?" "Yes, sir. Actually, I'm reading multiple ships. At least 15 of them." The bridge suddenly felt very small. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now, they might have their answer. "Take us in slowly," Jake ordered. "Lisa, plot a course that keeps us at maximum sensor range. I want to see them before they see us." The horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Immediately, the main screen lit up with contacts. They weren't just ships. They were warships. Big ones. "My God," Lisa whispered. "Captain, those vessels are huge." "The smallest one is twice our size." Jake studied the screen. The ships had a brutal look to them, all sharp angles and weapon ports. They were clearly designed for fighting, not exploring. "Karen, are they scanning us?" "Not yet, sir. I don't think they've detected us." "Good. Record everything you can. We need to bring this information back to Earth." For 20 minutes, they watched the alien fleet. The ships moved in precise formations, clearly following some kind of military discipline. Karen worked frantically at her station, gathering every bit of data she could. Then, everything changed. "Captain, they've seen us," Lisa shouted. 3 ships are breaking formation and heading our way. Fast." Jake grabbed the arms of his chair. "Paul, I need everything the engines can give us." "Lisa, plot a jump back to Earth." "Already on it, sir," Lisa replied, her voice tight with stress. The alien ships closed the distance with frightening speed. They were much faster than the horizon. Within minutes, they had surrounded the human vessel. "Captain, we're being hailed," Karen said. "It's audio only. Put it through." A harsh, grating voice filled the bridge. The words were alien, but the computer began working on a translation. After a moment, text appeared on the screen. "Unknown vessel. You have entered space controlled by the Vexari Collective. Identify yourself immediately." Jake took a deep breath. This was it. Humanity's first contact with alien life. He had to get this right. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth ship Horizon. We come in peace. We're explorers, not warriors. We didn't know this space was claimed." There was a long pause. Then, the voice came back. And this time the computer had learned enough to provide a rough translation in real time. "Earth, we have no record of this world. You will lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction." Jake looked at Lisa. She shook her head slightly. They both knew the Horizon didn't have shields. They barely had weapons. This was a science vessel, not a warship. "We don't have shields," Jake said carefully. "We're not a military ship. We're just here to explore and learn. Perhaps we could discuss this peacefully." Another pause. Then 3 more alien ships appeared on the sensors, moving to surround them completely. "Your weakness is noted," the voice said. "The Vexari Collective claims all species in this region. You will submit to our authority or be eliminated. Choose now." Jake felt cold sweat on his forehead. This was going wrong. Very wrong. "I need to contact my government," he said. We can't make decisions like this without authorization. You misunderstand your situation, the alien voice replied. You have no authority here. Submit or die. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. He saw fear in their eyes, but also trust. They were waiting for him to save them. But how could he? The Horizon was helpless against these warships. We need more time to consider, Jake said, trying to stall. Time is not yours to request. The nearest alien ship opened fire. The blast hit the Horizon's port side, ripping through the hull like paper. The ship shook violently, throwing everyone from their seats. Alarms screamed throughout the vessel. Red emergency lights flashed on every console. Hull breach on decks 3 and 4, Lisa shouted over the noise. We've lost life support in that section. Paul, get us out of here, Jake yelled into the ship's communication system. I'm trying, sir. The engines took damage. Give me 2 minutes. Another blast hit them. This time it struck the rear of the ship. Jake could hear the scream of tearing metal even from the bridge. We don't have 2 minutes, Karen cried out. Jake made a decision. Lisa, jump us out now. I don't care where. Just get us away from here. Sir, the calculations aren't complete. We could end up anywhere. We could end up inside a star. Better than dying here for certain. Do it. Lisa's hands flew across her controls. The alien ships fired again, and this time, the blast tore through the engineering section. The Horizon's lights flickered and died, replaced by emergency power. Jumping now, Lisa screamed. The universe twisted around them. The stars stretched into lines of light. Jake felt his stomach turn inside out. Then, suddenly, they were somewhere else. The alien ships were gone, but the Horizon was dying. Damage report, Jake ordered, pulling himself back into his chair. Paul's voice came through, weak and pained. Captain, we've lost 40% of the crew. The engineering section is gone. I'm running on backup systems only. We have maybe enough power for one more jump. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. 40%. That was 60 people dead. 60 people who had trusted him to keep them safe. Lisa, can you get us home? Yes, sir. I have the coordinates locked in, but it'll use everything we have left. Do it. We need to warn Earth. We need to tell them what's out here. As the Horizon made its final jump toward home, Jake looked at the data Karen had collected. The alien fleet had been huge, and those 3 ships that attacked them were just a small patrol. Humanity had just learned they weren't alone in the universe. They had also learned that their neighbors wanted to destroy them. The Horizon limped toward Earth, carrying the news that would change everything. The age of human innocence was over. The age of war was about to begin. 6 months had passed since the Horizon returned to Earth. Jake Morrison stood in front of the United Earth Council and watched their faces as he finished his report. Some looked scared. Others looked angry. All of them looked worried. Thank you, Captain, President Claire Hoffman said from her seat at the center of the council table. Your report has been very helpful, though the news is troubling. Troubling was putting it lightly. Earth had spent 6 months preparing for the worst. Every nation had contributed resources to build defenses. Factories that once made cars now made weapons. Shipyards that built ocean vessels now constructed warships for space. Admiral Richard Hayes commanded the new United Defense Fleet. He was a hard man, with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles on Earth. Now he faced the possibility of a battle in space. We have 40 ships ready for combat, Hayes told the council. Another 60 are under construction. But Captain Morrison's data suggests the Vexari have hundreds of ships. We're not ready for a full-scale war. Then we need more time, said one of the council members. Can we negotiate with them? Before anyone could answer, alarms began ringing throughout the building. A technician rushed into the room, her face pale. Mr. President, we have an unidentified ship entering Earth orbit. It's not Vexari. It's something else. Everyone rushed to the command center. On the main screen, they saw a small ship, badly damaged and leaking atmosphere. It was broadcasting a message in dozens of languages, none of them human. "It's trying to communicate," Karen White said. She had been promoted to head of the new Alien Languages Department. "Give me a few minutes, and I can work out a translation." They waited, tense and silent, as Karen worked. Finally, a voice came through the speakers. It sounded tired and desperate. "Please, we mean no harm. We need help. We have information about the Vexari. Information you need to survive." Hayes looked at the president. "It could be a trap. Or it could be our only chance," Claire replied. An hour later, a strange creature stood in the council chamber. It looked like a reptile that walked on two legs, with scales that shimmered green and gold. Its eyes were large and intelligent. It wore what looked like the remains of a uniform. "My name is Krell," the alien said through a translation device. "I am of the Talarin Republic. Or I was. Before the Vexari destroyed our world, the room was silent. This was humanity's first peaceful contact with an alien species. Everyone was afraid to speak. "You fought the Vexari?" Jake asked, stepping forward. Krell's eyes focused on him. "Yes. For 10 years, we fought them. We lost. Our fleet was destroyed. Our planets were conquered. I am one of the few who escaped. Why come here?" President Hoffman asked. "Because the Vexari are coming for you next. I have seen their battle plans. They are assembling the largest fleet they have ever created. In 3 months, they will attack Earth. They will destroy your cities and enslave your people, just as they did to mine." The council erupted into chaos. People shouted questions and arguments. Hayes had to call for order several times before everyone settled down. "How many ships?" Hayes asked quietly. 800, Krell replied. "Perhaps more by the time they arrive." The number hit everyone like a physical blow. "Then we've already lost," one council member said, slumping in his chair. "No," Krell said firmly. "You have something my people did not. You have time to prepare. And you have something else." "What?" Claire asked. "You have a history of war." Krell pulled up a holographic display from his device. It showed Earth's history of conflict. Thousands of years of battles, strategies, and weapons. "I have studied your species," Krell continued. "You have fought each other for your entire existence. You have developed strategies and tactics that no other species in the galaxy has conceived. The Vexari have conquered 40 worlds, but they have never faced an enemy like you." "We're still outnumbered 20-1, Hayes pointed out. "Yes. But the Vexari expect you to fight like every other species they have conquered. They expect formal battle lines, predictable strategies, and quick surrender when losses become high. If you fight like that, you will lose." "How should we fight?" Jake asked. Krell's eyes gleamed. "Like humans. Use your history. Use your creativity. Fight in ways they cannot predict or counter." Over the next week, Krell worked closely with Admiral Hayes and the military leadership. He shared everything he knew about Vexari tactics, technology, and weaknesses. The Talarans had fought bravely, but they had fought in traditional ways. Humanity would need to be different. Dr. Susan Blake led the engineering teams working on new weapons. She was young but brilliant, with a mind that could see connections others missed. Krell's information gave her ideas that made her smile in a way that worried her assistants. "The Vexari shields are designed to stop high-energy weapons," she explained to Hayes and Jake during a presentation. "They've used the same technology for centuries because it has always worked. But they've never encountered plasma weapons configured like this." She showed them designs for what she called the pulsar system. It would fire controlled bursts of superheated plasma that could, in theory, overload Vexari shields. "Will it work?" Hayes asked. "I don't know," Susan admitted. "We won't know until we try it in actual combat. But it's our best chance." Construction went into overdrive. Every shipyard in the solar system worked around the clock. Civilian ships were converted into warships. New vessels were built using designs that combined human engineering with Talaran knowledge. Jake was given command of a new ship called the Defiant. It was larger than the Horizon and built for fighting. Lisa Grant joined him as his second officer. New crew members came aboard, young men and women who had volunteered to defend their home. Lieutenant Danny Cooper was one of them. He was barely 22, but he had been the top pilot in his training class. Ensign Nicole Adams ran the weapons systems with a calm precision that impressed even the veteran officers. "We're ready, sir," Lisa told Jake, as they prepared for their first training exercise. "The crew is green, but they're eager." "Eager isn't enough against the Vexari," Jake replied. "They need to be smart and lucky too." The training exercises were brutal. Hayes pushed every ship and every crew to their limits. He created scenarios based on Krell's intelligence, making them practice against overwhelming odds again and again. "You will be outnumbered," Hayes told the assembled captains at one briefing. "You will be outgunned. Many of you will die. But if we fight smart, if we use every advantage we have, we can make them pay for every inch they take. We can make them regret ever coming to Earth." 2 months passed in a blur of preparation. New weapons were installed. New tactics were drilled into every crew member. Earth's orbital defenses were strengthened with weapons, platforms, and minefields. Krell worked with the Talarine refugees who had begun arriving in small groups. They had heard that humanity was preparing to fight the Vexari, and they wanted to help. Some joined as advisors. Others volunteered to fight alongside the human fleet. "Why are you doing this?" Claire asked Krell one evening. "You could hide. You could flee to another part of the galaxy." "Because someone must stand against them," Krell replied. "My people tried and failed. But perhaps humanity will succeed where we could not. And if you do, perhaps the galaxy will finally be free of the Vexari threat." With 1 month remaining before the projected invasion, Hayes assembled his fleet. 200 ships now. More than he had dared hope for. It still wasn't enough. But it was what they had. Long-range sensors picked up the warning everyone had been dreading. A massive fleet had entered the outer edge of human space. The Vexari were coming. Hayes called an emergency meeting with all ship captains. Jake sat in the conference room and listened as the Admiral laid out the defense plan. "They're heading for New Horizon Colony," Hayes explained. "It's our furthest settlement and the most vulnerable. They'll expect us to abandon it and fall back to defend Earth. We're not going to do that." "Sir?" one captain asked. "We're going to meet them there. We're going to show them that humanity doesn't abandon its people, and we're going to teach them that attacking Earth was the biggest mistake they've ever made." The fleet began moving out within hours. 200 ships heading toward what might be their final battle. Jake stood on the bridge of the Defiant and watched Earth disappear behind them. "All ships reporting ready, sir," Lisa said. Jake nodded. Somewhere ahead, the Vexari fleet was approaching. Commander Vosh led that fleet, confident in his certain victory. He had conquered dozens of species. He thought humanity would be no different. He was about to learn otherwise. The United Defense Fleet arrived at New Horizon 3 days before the Vexari. Jake stood on the bridge of the Defiant and looked at the planet below. It was a beautiful world, with blue oceans and green continents. 50,000 people called it home. Governor Linda Pierce refused to evacuate her people. She had sent a message to Admiral Hayes that was now famous throughout the fleet. "We didn't come all this way to run at the first sign of trouble. New Horizon stays, and we fight." Jake admired her courage, even if he questioned her wisdom. But Hayes had agreed with her decision. The colony would be their fortress, and the colonists would help defend it. "Captain, Admiral Hayes is requesting all commanding officers report to the flagship," Lisa informed him. Jake took a shuttle to the Liberty, the fleet's largest ship and Hayes' command vessel. The conference room was crowded with captains, all looking tense and determined. Hayes stood at the head of the table with Krell beside him, A holographic display showed the approaching Vexari fleet. There were so many red dots that they looked like a swarm. Final count is 840 ships, Hayes said without preamble. They'll be here in 60 hours. We have 200 ships and whatever ground defenses the colony has prepared. The odds are not in our favor. Then why are we here, sir? Asked one captain. Why not fall back to a stronger position? Because this is where we draw the line, Hayes replied. The Vexari expect us to run. Every other species has run from them. We're going to show them that humans are different. Krell stepped forward. Commander Vosh leads their fleet. I fought against him before. He is arrogant and believes in the superiority of Vexari tactics. He will approach this battle like every other battle he has fought. That is our advantage. Hayes brought up a tactical display. We're not going to fight them in a traditional fleet engagement. We're going to hit them with everything unexpected. Dr. Blake, show them what you've prepared. Susan Blake appeared on the holographic display, broadcasting from the research station in orbit. Behind her, technicians worked on massive weapons. We've installed the pulsar weapons on every combat ship, she explained. We've also created something new. We're calling them Striker missiles. They're fast, they're small, and they carry plasma warheads that should penetrate Vexari shields. Each ship has been equipped with 50 of them. Will they work? A captain asked. Field tests are promising, Susan admitted. But we won't know for sure until we use them in real combat. I wish I could give you more certainty. But this is all new technology. Hayes continued with the briefing. We're going to divide our forces into 3 groups. The first group, led by the Liberty, will engage their main fleet head-on. We'll give them the traditional battle they expect. That's suicide, someone muttered. Probably, Hayes agreed calmly. But while they're focused on us, the second and third groups will hit them from the flanks. Captain Morrison will lead the second group. Captain Angela Ross will lead the third. You'll use the Striker missiles and hit-and-run tactics. Keep them off balance. Don't let them settle into their preferred formations. Jake studied the tactical display. It was a bold plan, maybe too bold, but conventional tactics would definitely fail against such overwhelming numbers. What about the colony? Jake asked. Governor Pierce has prepared some surprises, Hayes said with a thin smile. Show them, Governor. Linda Pierce appeared on the display. She was a tall woman, with steel-gray hair, and eyes that had seen too many hardships. Behind her, colonists worked on what looked like weapon emplacements. We've spent the last 2 months turning New Horizon into a fortress, she explained. We've got ground-based plasma cannons, missile batteries, and shield generators protecting our major cities. If the Vexari try to land ground troops, they're in for a nasty shock. We've also prepared orbital mines, added one of her military advisors. Thousands of them, scattered throughout the system. They're small and hard to detect. When Vexari ships pass near them, boom, Hayes looked around the room. Questions? What happens if the first group is destroyed before the flanking attacks can make a difference? Asked Captain Ross. Then you keep fighting. Hayes said simply. You keep hitting them until either they're dead or you are. There's no retreat from this battle. Earth is 3 weeks away, at best speed. If we run, the Vexari will chase us down and destroy us piece by piece. Our only chance is to hurt them so badly here that they think twice about continuing the invasion. The meeting ended, and Jake returned to the Defiant. His crew was waiting for him, eager for news. Gather everyone in the main hangar, Jake ordered. I need to talk to them all. 20 minutes later, Jake stood in front of his crew. There were 300 people looking up at him, young and old, experienced and fresh from training. They were his responsibility now. I won't lie to you, Jake began. The Vexari fleet outnumbers us 4-1. They have better shields, bigger guns, and more experience. By every logical measure, we should lose this battle. He paused and looked at their faces. Some looked scared, but none looked ready to quit. But we have something they don't have. We have a reason to fight. This is our home, our people, our future. The Vexari fight because they're ordered to. We fight because we have no choice. And that makes all the difference. Danny Cooper raised his hand. Sir, what do we do if things go bad? We keep fighting, Jake said firmly. We fight until we win, or until we can't fight anymore. There's no shame in being afraid. I'm afraid too. But we can't let fear stop us from doing what needs to be done. The crew was dismissed to their stations. Lisa found Jake in his ready room, staring out the window at the planet below. Nice speech, she said. Do you believe it? I have to, Jake replied. If I don't believe we can win, how can I ask them to fight? We could still lose. Yes, we probably will lose. But maybe we'll hurt them enough that they leave Earth alone. Maybe that's the best we can hope for. The next 2 days passed in a blur of final preparations. Every system was checked and rechecked. Weapons were loaded, shields were tested, and crews drilled on emergency procedures. Krell spent his time moving between ships, offering advice and encouragement. The Talaran refugees worked alongside human crews, sharing what they had learned from their own battles against the Vexari. On New Horizon, Governor Pierce walked through her colony's defenses. Farmers and teachers had become soldiers. They manned the plasma cannons and missile batteries, ready to defend their homes. How are our people holding up? She asked her security chief, a former military officer named Greg Palmer. They're scared, but determined. Greg replied, Everyone knows what's at stake. If the Vexari win, New Horizon burns. Then we don't let them win, Linda said firmly. In orbit, the defense platforms hummed with power. Each one was armed with enough firepower to threaten even a Vexari battleship. Technicians made final adjustments, knowing that once the battle started, there would be no second chances. Susan Blake worked until the last possible moment, installing upgrades and improvements to the pulsar weapons. She barely slept, driven by the knowledge that her work could mean the difference between victory and defeat. Doctor, you need to rest, one of her assistants said gently. I'll rest when this is over, Susan replied, not looking up from her work. One more calibration might save one more ship. That ship might save one more life. I can't stop now. Aboard the Liberty, Admiral Hayes stood alone in his quarters. He had fought in Earth's last major war, 20 years ago. He had seen good people die. He knew what was coming, and the weight of it pressed down on him like a physical thing. He thought about his family back on Earth. His daughter was about to start college. His son was in the Space Academy, training to be a pilot. Would they be safe? Would Earth survive if this battle failed? Hayes allowed himself 5 minutes of doubt and fear. Then he pushed it all away and returned to his command center. His staff looked to him for strength. He couldn't afford to show weakness now. The long-range sensors picked up the Vexari fleet when they were still 12 hours away. The red dots on the tactical display seemed to fill the entire screen. All ships, this is Admiral Hayes, he broadcast to the fleet. The enemy is approaching. This is what we've prepared for. This is what we've trained for. In a few hours, we'll show the Vexari that humanity will not go quietly into the dark. Man your stations and prepare for battle. Good luck to all of you. Jake stood on the bridge of the Defiant and watched his crew move to their positions. Danny Cooper settled into the pilot's seat with practiced ease. Nicole Adams armed the weapons systems, her hands steady despite the tension in her face. All stations report ready, Captain, Lisa said. Very well, Jake replied. Sound general quarters. All hands to battle stations. The alarms rang throughout the ship. This was it. The moment everything had been building toward. The Vexari were coming, confident in their power and certain of their victory. They were about to learn that humanity was not like the other species they had conquered. Humans did not surrender easily. They did not break under pressure. And they did not forgive those who threatened their homes. The Battle of New Horizon was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Vexari fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a formation that had terrified dozens of species before. 840 warships arranged in perfect lines, their weapons already charging. At the center of the fleet, Commander Vosh sat in his command chair and smiled. "Scan the system," he ordered. "Locate the human vessels." His sensor officer worked quickly. "Commander, I'm detecting 200 ships near the third planet. They appear to be waiting for us." Vosh laughed. It was a harsh, cruel sound. "Only 200? These humans are even weaker than I thought. Prepare the bombardment pattern. We'll destroy their fleet, then burn their colony from orbit. This will be over by nightfall." On the Liberty, Admiral Hayes watched the Vexari fleet approach. His face was calm, but his hands gripped the arms of his chair tightly. "They're moving into standard attack formation," his tactical officer reported. "Just like Krell predicted." "Good," Hayes said. "Let them think we're going to fight their way. All ships, hold position. Make them come to us." The Vexari fleet advanced slowly, their massive battleships in front, smaller cruisers and destroyers behind them. It was a formation designed to break enemy lines through sheer, overwhelming force. "They're charging weapons, Admiral," the tactical officer said. "Range in 2 minutes." Hayes opened a channel to the entire human fleet. "All ships, stand ready. Remember your training. Trust your crews. And show these aliens what humans are made of." The Vexari opened fire first. Hundreds of energy beams lanced across space toward the human fleet. The Liberty's shields flared as the blasts struck home. All across the fleet, human ships rocked under the bombardment. "Return fire," Hayes ordered calmly. The human fleet unleashed everything they had: plasma cannons, missile batteries, and the new pulsar weapons, all fired at once. The space between the two fleets turned into a light show of death and destruction. The pulsar weapons hit the Vexari shields, and something unexpected happened. The shields flickered and failed. 3 Vexari cruisers took direct hits, their hulls rupturing under the plasma blasts. On his command ship, Vosh sat up straight. What just happened? How did their weapons penetrate our shields? "Wush. Unknown, Commander," his tactical officer replied, sounding worried for the first time. "The weapons are using some kind of plasma configuration we've never encountered. Adapt the shields," Vosh snapped, "and increase fire on their flagship." "I want it destroyed," but adapting shields took time, and the human fleet wasn't giving them any. More pulsar blasts slammed into Vexari ships, each one causing damage that should have been impossible. "Now," Hayes said quietly. "Execute. Flanking maneuver. All strike groups. Attack." Jake had been waiting for this moment. The Defiant and 40 other ships had been hiding behind New Horizons' largest moon. Now they burst out at full speed, coming at the Vexari fleet from the side. "All weapons, fire at will," Jake ordered. "Danny, get us in close. Don't give them an easy target." The Defiant screamed into the battle, its striker missiles launching in waves. The small, fast missiles darted between Vexari ships, their plasma warheads exploding against hulls that weren't designed to take such hits. Danny flew the Defiant like it was a fighter instead of a cruiser, diving and weaving through the Vexari formation. Nicole's weapons found target after target, each shot carefully aimed to do maximum damage. "Captain, we just destroyed a Vexari destroyer," Lisa reported, her voice excited. "The Striker missiles work even better than expected." On the other side of the battle, Captain Angela Ross led her strike group in a similar attack. The Vexari were now being hit from 3 directions at once, something they had never experienced before. Vosh watched his tactical display in growing anger. The humans were not fighting like they were supposed to. They weren't holding formation. They weren't following any pattern he recognized. They were attacking like a swarm of insects, hitting from every angle. "Reorganize the fleet," he ordered. "Form defensive sphere formation." But before his ships could respond, something else happened. The orbital mines that New Horizon had seeded throughout the system began to activate. Hundreds of small explosions rippled through the Vexari rear lines, destroying smaller ships and damaging larger ones. They mined the entire system, Vosh's tactical officer said in disbelief. That's hundreds of mines. The effort required to place them all is enormous. Vosh's mandibles clicked in frustration. These humans were proving far more troublesome than any species he had faced before. But he still had overwhelming numbers. He would crush them through sheer force. All ships, break formation, pursue, and destroy individual targets. Show them what Vexari power truly means. The Vexari fleet scattered, each ship or small group hunting human vessels. It was a tactic that had worked countless times before. Isolated enemies were easier to destroy, but Hayes had expected this too. Split into pack formations, 3 ships per pack. Support each other and keep moving. Don't let them pin you down. The battle descended into chaos. Human ships fought in coordinated groups of 3, covering each other's weaknesses and combining their firepower. The Vexari, unused to such fluid tactics, found themselves struggling to land decisive hits. Jake's pack consisted of the Defiant, a heavy cruiser called the Vengeance, and a destroyer named the Swift. They moved through the battlefield like sharks, striking hard and then disappearing before the Vexari could respond effectively. Vexari battleship on our starboard, Lisa called out. It's targeting the Swift. A. Rend. Gif. Lasby. Danny. Get us between them, Jake ordered. Nicole. Hit that battleship with everything we have. The Defiant swung around, its shields taking the punishment meant for the smaller Swift. Nicole unleashed a full spread of Striker missiles, followed by every pulsar cannon the ship had. The battleship's shields collapsed under the assault, and the missiles tore into its hull. The battleship is breaking apart, Lisa reported. The Swift is safe, but there was no time to celebrate. Another Vexari ship appeared. Then another. The battle was too big, too chaotic. Ships died on both sides, exploding in bright flashes that lit up the darkness of space. On the ground, Governor Pierce watched the battle through her command center's displays. They're getting closer. Some of the Vexari ships are breaking off from the main fight. They're going to try a ground assault, Greg Palmer said. Get ready, people. Here they come. 6 Vexari troop carriers descended toward New Horizons' main colony. They expected light resistance. Maybe some small arms fire from desperate civilians. Instead, they flew into a wall of plasma cannon fire from the ground defenses. 2 carriers exploded before they could land. The other 4 made it to the surface and deployed their troops. Vexari soldiers, massive and armed with advanced weapons, poured out, expecting an easy fight. They found colonists in fortified positions, armed with weapons that had been designed specifically to fight aliens. The farmers and teachers of New Horizon had become soldiers, and they fought for their homes with desperate courage. The battle on the ground was brutal. The Vexari were stronger and better equipped, but the colonists knew the terrain. They used ambushes and traps, falling back when necessary and counterattacking when possible. We're holding them at the eastern perimeter, one militia commander reported to Pierce. But we've taken heavy casualties. I don't know how long we can last. Hold as long as you can, Pierce replied. Reinforcements are coming. She had sent a message to Admiral Hayes requesting support. The Admiral had promised to send what he could spare. But the space battle was still raging. In orbit, the fighting had been going on for 2 hours. The human fleet had been reduced to 140 ships. But the Vexari had lost over 300. It was a victory by the numbers, but it didn't feel like one. Too many good people had died. Hayes stood on the bridge of the Liberty, which had taken heavy damage. One of the ship's main engines was offline, and fires burned in 3 different sections. Sir, we're receiving reports from the surface, his communications officer said. The colony is under ground assault. Governor Pierce is requesting support. Hayes looked at his tactical display. He could spare a few ships, but it would weaken the orbital defense. Yet he couldn't abandon the colonists. Detach the Ranger, the Guardian, and the Striker. Send them to support the ground forces. Everyone else, maintain current engagement. The three ships broke off from the main battle and descended toward the planet. Their weapons hammered the Vexari ground positions, giving the colonists the support they desperately needed. Vosh watched his fleet's losses mount and felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Doubt. The humans should have broken by now. They should have surrendered or fled. Instead, they kept fighting with a ferocity that stunned him. Commander, we've lost 35% of our fleet, his tactical officer reported. If losses continue at this rate, we may need to consider withdrawal. Withdrawal? Vosh roared. The Vexari Collective does not withdraw. We are the masters of this galaxy. These primitive humans cannot defeat us. But even as he spoke, another wave of Striker missiles found their targets. 2 more Vexari ships died in balls of fire. Jake brought the Defiant around for another attack run. The ship had taken damage, but it was still fighting. His crew worked with mechanical precision, exhaustion pushed aside by adrenaline and determination. Captain, sensors show the Vexari fleet is pulling back toward the outer system, Lisa reported. Jake couldn't believe what he was hearing. They're retreating? Looks like it, sir. They're still fighting, but they're moving away from the planet. Hayes saw it too. The Vexari were withdrawing. After 3 hours of brutal combat, they had had enough. All ships, pursue but don't overextend, Hayes ordered. Hit them as they run, but stay in mutually supporting range. The human fleet chased the Vexari out of the system, their weapons still firing. Finally, the remaining Vexari ships jumped to faster than light speed and disappeared. The Battle of New Horizon was over. The humans had won, but the cost had been terrible. 60 ships destroyed, thousands of crew members dead. The colony had lost hundreds of defenders. New Horizon's eastern settlement was in ruins. Jake sat in his command chair and felt the weight of it all crash down on him. They had won, but it felt like a loss. So many people dead. So many ships destroyed. Sir, Admiral Hayes is broadcasting to the fleet, Lisa said softly. Hayes's voice came through, tired but proud. Today, humanity proved something important. We proved that we will not surrender. We will not break. And we will not let anyone take what is ours. Mourn our losses, honor our dead. But know that what we did here today will echo across the galaxy. The Vexari came, expecting an easy victory. We sent them running. Well done, all of you. Jake looked around his bridge at his exhausted crew. They had done it. Against impossible odds, they had won. And the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. News of the Battle of New Horizons spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. For the first time in living memory, the Vexari Collective had been defeated. Species that had lived under the threat of Vexari conquest for generations suddenly saw hope. Jake stood in the rebuilt command center on New Horizon, 3 weeks after the battle. The colony was still repairing damage, but the people had refused to give up their home. Governor Pierce stood beside him, looking out at the reconstruction efforts. We've received 47 messages from alien species we've never heard of, she told him. All of them want to know about humanity. All of them want to know how we beat the Vexari. What are we telling them? Jake asked. The truth. That we fought hard. We fought smart. And we got lucky. While under stuff. While fought hard in descend. While fought in descend. We fought hard. Krell approached them, a datapad in his clawed hand. More than lucky. The Talaran Republic has begun an uprising. The Vexari garrison forces are being overwhelmed. We are taking back our world. Windfinder. Har. Jake felt a surge of hope. That's incredible. It is because of what you did here, Krell said. For 200 years, the Vexari have seemed unstoppable. You proved they can be beaten. You gave the entire galaxy courage. On Earth, President Claire Hoffman met with ambassadors from a dozen alien species. They had arrived in the weeks since the battle, all seeking alliance with humanity. The conference room was crowded with beings of different shapes and sizes. On behalf of the Zentari Empire, we offer formal alliance, said Ambassador Torak, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms. Your victory at New Horizon has shown that the Vexari can be resisted. Together, we can end their reign of terror. Admiral Hayes sat at the conference table, still recovering from injuries he had sustained in the battle. We appreciate the offer, but we need to understand what we're getting into. How many species are willing to stand against the Vexari? 12 species have already committed, replied another ambassador, this one representing the Kelvin Union. More are considering it. The Vexari have made many enemies. Your victory gave us the excuse we needed to act. Claire listened to the discussions and felt the weight of responsibility. Humanity had stumbled into galactic politics by accident. Now they were at the center of what could become the largest alliance in the galaxy's history. We need guarantees, she said firmly. If we're going to fight the Vexari, we need to know our allies won't abandon us if things get difficult. We understand, Torak replied. That is why we propose the Free Species Coalition, a formal, military, and economic alliance dedicated to mutual defense and the defeat of the Vexari threat. The discussions continued for days. Treaties were drafted and debated. Humanity was learning to navigate the complex world of interstellar diplomacy, and they were learning fast. Meanwhile, in Vexari space, Commander Vosh stood before the High Command. The council chamber was a massive room with walls of black stone. 7 members of the High Command sat in judgment, their faces cold and angry. You lost over half your fleet to a primitive species, the first commander said, his voice dripping with contempt. You retreated like a coward. Explain yourself. Vosh kept his head high despite his shame. The humans fight unlike any species we have encountered. They use unconventional tactics. Their weapons are designed specifically to counter our shields. They do not follow the rules of civilized warfare. Excuses, another council member hissed. The Vexari Collective has ruled this region for 2 centuries. We do not lose to primitives who just learn to travel between stars. They are not primitives, Vosh insisted. They are warriors. Their entire history is warfare. They have perfected the art of killing over thousands of years. We underestimated them. The first commander stood, his massive frame casting a shadow across the chamber. Then we will not underestimate them again. We will assemble the Grand Armada. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have. We will crush humanity and make an example of them. No species will dare resist the Vexari again. Back on Earth, Dr. Susan Blake worked with alien scientists who had joined the coalition. They shared technology and knowledge, creating weapons and defenses that combined the best of multiple civilizations. The Zentari have shield technology that's more advanced than anything we've developed, she explained to Admiral Hayes during a briefing. Combined with our pulsar weapons and Talaran tactical data, we can create ships that are far more effective than what we had at New Horizon. How long until we can produce them? Hayes asked. 6 months for the first batch. A year for full production. But sir, intelligence suggests the Vexari are building a much larger fleet. If they attack before we're ready, then we fight with what we have, Hayes said. Just like we did at New Horizon. Jake was promoted to Commodore and given command of a task force. His flagship was a new vessel called the Liberty's Hope, built using combined coalition technology. Lisa served as his executive officer, while Danny and Nicole had been promoted to command their own ships. Our task force will patrol the border, Hayes explained to Jake during their meeting. Early warning is critical. If the Vexari launch another attack, we need to know immediately. End quote. Understood, sir, Jake replied. Defend ourselves if attacked. Otherwise, observe and report. "We're not trying to start a war, Commodore. We're trying to prevent one." But preventing war was becoming harder every day. Vexari patrols had become more aggressive. There were skirmishes along the border. Small battles that left ships damaged or destroyed on both sides. Krell worked with the coalition military leadership, training them in anti-Vexari tactics. His insights had been valuable at New Horizon, and now he shared everything he knew with humanity's new allies. "The Vexari are proud," he explained during one training session. "They believe they are superior to all other species. Use that pride against them. Make them angry. Make them reckless. An angry Vexari makes mistakes." 6 months passed. The coalition grew stronger, adding new members almost weekly. But everyone knew it was just a matter of time before the Vexari struck back. The warning came on a Tuesday. Long-range sensors detected a massive fleet assembling in Vexari space. It was larger than anything ever seen before. Thousands of ships. Possibly tens of thousands. "They're not hiding their preparations," Admiral Hayes observed, studying the intelligence reports. "They want us to know they're coming. They want us to be afraid." "Are we afraid?" President Hoffman asked him quietly. "Terrified," Hayes admitted. "But we're also ready. As ready as we can be." The coalition fleet assembled at a neutral star system called Sanctuary. It was chosen for its strategic position and the vast empty space, perfect for a large-scale battle. The fleet numbered 800 ships now, representing 20 different species. Jake brought his task force to join the main fleet. As he approached, he saw ships of every design imaginable. Sleek Zentari cruisers, blocky Kelvin destroyers, and dozens of other types he didn't recognize. "It's beautiful," Lisa said softly, looking at the assembled fleet. "Let's hope it's enough," Jake replied. A week later, the Vexari arrived. Their fleet was enormous, blocking out the stars. First Commander Vok himself led the armada, determined to erase the stain of Vosh's defeat. "This is First Commander Vok of the Vexari Collective." His transmission echoed across both fleets. "You have resisted our rightful authority. You have killed our warriors. For this, you will all be destroyed. No mercy will be shown. No survivors will be taken." Admiral Hayes opened a response channel. "This is Admiral Richard Hayes of the Free Species Coalition. You came to our home and tried to conquer us. We defended ourselves. If you want war, we'll give you war. But know this: we will never surrender. We will never stop fighting. And we will never let you enslave another species." "Ah, bold words from soon-to-be-dead species," Vok replied. "Attack." The Vexari fleet surged forward like a tidal wave of metal and death. The coalition fleet moved to meet them, and space itself seemed to shake from what was coming. Jake stood on the bridge of the Liberty's Hope and watched the enemy approach. This was it. The battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy. If the coalition lost here, the Vexari would be unstoppable. If they won, they might finally break the Vexari's grip on the galaxy. "All ships report ready, sir," Lisa said. "Then let's show them what the coalition can do," Jake replied. "All weapons. Prepare to fire." The two fleets collided in an explosion of light and energy. Thousands of ships, millions of crew members, all fighting for their survival and their freedom. The Battle of Sanctuary had begun. But this time, humanity wasn't alone. This time, they had allies who believed in the same cause. This time, the galaxy had united against tyranny. The Vexari had ruled through fear for 2 centuries. That age was ending. A new age was beginning. One where free species stood together against those who would enslave them. Jake watched as coalition ships executed the tactics they had learned from New Horizon. They fought smart. They fought together. And they fought for something worth dying for. "Fire," he ordered. The Liberty's Hope unleashed its weapons, and across the fleet, Hundreds of other ships did the same. The galaxy shuddered as humanity and its allies entered the war with everything they had. The outcome was uncertain. The battle would be long and brutal. Many would die before it ended. But one thing was clear. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage not as victims, but as warriors. And together with their allies, they would fight until they were free or until they could fight no more. The war for the galaxy's future had truly begun.